Tired of serving up the same old tasteless victuals to your family? Step up your grill game with new seasonings from Coy's Southern Eats. Based off famous Southern recipes, our seasonings will add what's been missing to your family's feast. Add it to steak, chicken, shrimp, you name it. Serving up these fixings is going to make you the hero at home. So head on over to coyssoutherneats.com and order yours today. Come get you some.
And everybody, welcome to the Hogville.net YouTube Live post-game Razorback post-game show presented by Coy's Southern Eats. Y'all go check them out at select locations in Central Arkansas and Northwest Arkansas on Amazon.com and also at Walmart.com, along with CoySouthernEats.com. Go out, try those great products that they have, and rediscover the magic of Coy's. Come get you some. Drake, I'm gonna tell you what, man. It was ugly today. Arkansas loses on homecoming, extends their losing streak to 6 games. Lowest offensive output of the year. They lose 7-3 in a real ugly contest. There's just no way around. There's no way around it. You can't explain it other than it was just ugly today. And I'm going to tell you, man, it was, if you like defensive slugfest, I mean, maybe this was the game for you. But today, other than if you're here for offense, man, this was not the place to be.
Yeah, kind of like what you're saying. If you're here for a defensive slugfest, and if you're really into punting and special teams, it would definitely be your day. It was just kind of a ugly game, messy on both sides, really mostly offensive sides for both of them. Yeah, not ideal. Arkansas drops another.
Yeah, Eddie Butler, well, looks like it's time for another house cleaning. Yeah, I mean,
maybe room to room, hopefully.
At this point, I'm going to say it might be, like you said, it might be a room to room and not a whole house. But I don't see how you can't point fingers at play calling. Yeah. You had 97 yards of passing. You had 103 yards of rushing. And when you look at the matchup that Arkansas had offensively against Mississippi State, yeah, their run defense was pretty good, but their defensive secondary was 118th in the country, 115th, somewhere right around there, if I'm not mistaken. And through 3.5 quarters, KJ Jefferson only had 13 passes. You start to wonder and look at the offensive side of the ball and say, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, that it didn't make much sense to myself either. To me, I'd be throwing the ball every gosh darn play almost. Because last week when we did our pregame, looking into Mississippi State, I was saying I don't think their defense is that great, and not that our offense is that great either. But I think we could definitely take advantage of the situation with such bad pass defense on their side. So it's really frustrating, to see KJ. Not that it's his fault. Not going down the field as much, or not, having as many passing opportunities. And the passing opportunities they had, it seemed like was a lot of like shorter stuff. I would think he would try to take a couple of deep shots every once in a while, and they did, especially towards the end. But yeah, again, I don't know for sure.
So the one thing that I did notice towards the end of the game was that they were having to take deeper shots, not deep shots, but deeper shots.
Right.
Out of necessity and not out of forcing your will upon your opponent. And that's a recipe for disaster. And inside Donald W. Reynolds Stadium, Razorback Stadium today, that's what you did see disaster, because I tweeted this out through the first half. On first down, Arkansas was averaging 1.8 yards per play. Sam's talked about wanting to make sure that he's getting, the offense is getting push on first down and creating a second and mid-range and possibly a third and short. That wasn't happening. You're putting yourself behind the sticks again. And then Mississippi State was averaging 4.4 and 4.4 yards per play on first down. Start of the second half, Arkansas was starting to kind of turn that trend a little bit. But then it reverted right back to where they were before. And we've talked about this, Drake, that the defense can't sit there and support this team and carry them. You saw with the interception at the first of the game with was Al Walcott, if I'm not mistaken, that set up a Cam Little field goal. The defensive line, they didn't get a lot of push today on that Mississippi State offensive line.
Yeah, and that's something I noticed. I felt like, the first couple of drives, I thought they did a pretty good job there on the ends with Landon Jackson and Trajan Jeffcoat. I thought they did decent early. And they even had, a couple of spots, throughout the game. But yeah, towards the end there, it kind of seemed like they weren't necessarily getting the penetration that they should or need to be getting to cause some disruptions. I think
I don't know. I don't know how else you can slice this, but we're just going to keep rolling. And Arkansas on first down through the first half was only averaging 1.8 yards per play, and Mississippi State was averaging 4.4. To me, that's like a pillow fight. It started on Maple Street and ran all the way down into Razorback Stadium, and nobody wanted to win the game today.
Yeah, it was probably one of the more, to say, kind of almost boring to a certain extent. There's not necessarily any huge plays on the day, nothing really too, of course, sprinkled in there, but nothing like, oh yeah, that was pretty crazy. But yeah, it was just a weird, slow game today.
So Eddie Butler had mentioned and said, "Well, it looks like it's time to clean for another house cleaning." And Drake, you had said maybe room to room.
Yeah.
At this point, I think that might be more suffices to say that might be the approach at this point because it's not working. 200 yards offense, 103 rushing, 97 passing for the Razorback offense. I mean, defense, they tried to do everything that they could to give the offense a chance to win the game.
Yeah.
And talk a little bit about what they did today.
Yeah. Again, another week of more of our, our defense, showing out again. So Mississippi State had 11 drives today, and on 8 of those drives, our defense forced 8 punts, 1 interception, and 4 of those drives were 3 and outs. And Mississippi State only crossed the Arkansas 50, I believe, is 3 different times. One was the touchdown, and then one was from a punt, and then the last one was that missed field goal. So, kind of like what you're saying, you don't want to point fingers, but you kind of have to see the issue on the other side of the ball. It's I feel like it is what it is at this point. It's our defense is our strong suit, and our offense is what it is. I don't know necessarily what you can do this far in the season to turn it around because there's only 4 games left.
Arkansas has got to now win out
Yeah.
to even attempt to get a bowl, and I know that that's probably slim pickings at this point. I know that there are a lot of folks that got no confidence in that, and I agree. I mean, at this point through 8 games, they're 2-6, 6-game losing streak, and at some point you have to start taking accountability. That's one of the things that Sam Pittman has talked about: accountability, making sure that you're taking care of your end of the football, and it's not working. So now you start to look at, okay, are the players being put in the best spots? Are the calls in scheme is it the right way to utilize this offense? And I think that's where the rubber meets the road at this point. I think that's where, if you're Sam Pittman, you have to go back in that locker room and in your office, and you have to really start to analyze exactly what's going to put your team in the bend these next 5 games, because now you've got to win out. You've got to go on the road to Florida. You've got home games against Auburn and Florida International and Missouri, and I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, man. Just don't know. Like you're saying, Auburn, they're always going to be good and always a hard team to play even here. And Missouri, I mean, they've been surprised this year. I mean, they played really well. Again, I think, you're kind of mentioning scheme and offense, and we've kind of talked about this before. Is it the players, or is this a player thing? Is it a coach scheme thing? I don't know at this point. I almost want to say it's the scheme, the offense we run, but it's kind of hard to say because we obviously have, in my personal opinion, some of some really good athletes, even our receivers that we got from these small Division II schools. I have a hard time believing that we are a team that's 2-6 right now. I have a hard time believing that because I think there's actually some really good players on that team that's just, for whatever reason, it's just not lining up right. And this is our 5th game now where we've lost by 7 points or less. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be. You got to be putting people in a different position because that's, it's unbearable to watch.
Yeah, it is. And Stephen 1383 made a great point. Who can we beat with 3 points and less than 250 yards? There's nobody.
Yeah.
There's nobody, because at that point you're asking your defense to pitch shutouts. And this, other than a couple of Alabama teams that were extremely dominant, which this defense is not. We're able to do that, and that's where it's so frustrating. Let's see. Also, our defense is really good, but they would need to shut out. That's exactly what we just talked about. Then again, we'd probably go to 6 overtimes. Jeez. Yeah.
Probably.
Man, I'm going to tell you, that would be some Arkansas history there. But, it almost kind of feels like the end of the Danny Ford era back in the late 90s, mid-late 90s, where this team hasn't really, I don't know if you really quit. I think that they were trying. I think that they were trying to execute a game plan that, quite frankly, did not fit the system, fit the style of offense that they have right now in that locker room. They're trying to do everything that they can to the best of their abilities, and it's just not working at this point. And I think that there is a lot of talent in that locker room. And like you said, I don't know if a shot in the arm, a new fresh face, a different perspective on the offense at this point is exactly what this team needs.
Yeah. As he moves into next week, and man, honestly, next year, I don't know necessarily how that stuff would work out, but so far, we're 2-6, and every single week, all people can talk about as in the negative is offense. Offensive line having issues blocking. You're not establishing the run game. I'm not gonna say our pass game is absolutely terrible, but it's almost not necessarily existent because it just hasn't developed.
Yeah.
So again, I don't know if it's going to be a new fresh face, a new system.
This is probably my best take that I can give you that can help you understand this, is that he's being asked to think and not react at this point. He is being asked to go through progressions, going through 1, 2, 3. Look at the defense. His eyes are different now. His eyes are now set on the front 7 or on the back half of the defense, and not the front 7, watching the edges, seeing what the defensive ends are doing, which again goes right into the RPO. He's being asked to sit back in the pocket and look. One of the things that I had noticed, and I was keeping some pretty close stats on this, is I was timing the amount of time it took from the time he clapped his hands to the time he got the ball out of his hands. Whenever he started to hold the ball, that's when everything went to hell in a handbasket. That's when everything started to break down. There were a couple times where they did try to move the pocket a little bit. Mississippi State's defensive front 7 was able to sniff that out because, one, they didn't do that, but just few and far between. There were, and again, you start to look at the algorithms of the Dan Enos offense and how he's calling it. You don't see any spontaneity in this offense right now. That's where you're as an offensive play caller, you have to make your money. And right now, he's not making any money.
Yeah. At this point, you could probably go on Madden and kind of run some plays on there. Kind of come up with your own style there. But kind of back to what they're talking about with KJ regressing, I think part of it is you kind of already hit on it. Is kind of like, playing in a new offense, playing under a new coach or like a new boss, I think anybody's going to have issues, but I don't think, the Arkansas fans would think it would be this big of an issue.
How many first downs did Arkansas have today versus Mississippi State?
Let me see.
You've got the stats there.
Yeah, I think it's, let's see if I can pull it up. I think it was 12 to 10. Yeah, 12 first downs for Arkansas, 10 for.
Take this spot. It says,
Go for Arkansas, 10 for Mississippi State.
So, whenever you start to look at Arkansas's defense, secondary played pretty dang good today, other than that one play there towards the third quarter. Kind of walk us through what you were seeing whenever Mississippi State, it looked like their center got the yips, really.
Yeah.
And kind of walk me through what you saw and what you kind of were taking in through that series and that back half there.
Yeah. So if I remember right, I think Mississippi State was like on the 3 on the north side of on the north end zone. And at that point, I think the crowd played a big part into it because it was loud in there.
It was
then
loud.
You had the center. I think they called it an illegal snap to me. To me, it's kind of looks like a fumble to me almost.
Because an illegal snap usually is where the ball he picks it up.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything with it, but he has control of it. He didn't have control of the ball. The ball just kind of like fell out of his hands, and instead of it being called a fumble, it was called an illegal snap, which still baffles me. But go ahead.
Yeah. Anyways, and then I think it was the next immediate play. I think again, a crowd played into this. There was a false start. One of the receivers, I think, jumped. Then I think was one more.
There was one more false start where 4 of the 5 offensive linemen started to move, and the center missed the snap count.
Yeah. So you got 3. You got the legal snap, and 2 false starts back to back to back. The stadium was loud, and then very next play, play after, they threw a 30 yard pass for the first down. Probably one of the most frustrating scenarios football I've watched in a while.
Yep.
But they were in a really good spot there. I can't remember how the drive ended.
So what happened was right after that, it was 3rd and 9. You got them backed up, and you got quarterback in the end zone. Landon Jackson is coming off the right side. He's crushing the left tackle at this point, and he almost gets to the quarterback. The guy kind of throws up a wobbly duck a little bit, and DB's got a chance to play on it. It's just right over his hands, and they get a 30-yard play out of that. And honestly, I feel like that characterized the entire game for Arkansas, where it was just a little bit out of reach.
Yeah, definitely a lot of silly scenarios today. And that was really interesting about Landon Jackson when he blocked it. He was like 15 yards, away from the line of scrimmage. I don't know how they got back to the stands coming from.
Yeah, but again, Arkansas falls to Mississippi State here on homecoming. 6th straight loss of the year, falls 2-6 on the season with a 7-3 loss. A loss that's really hard to swallow. We're going to do a quick spot here from our sponsor, Coy's Southern Eats, and we'll be back in just a second.
Tired of serving up the same old tasteless victuals to your family? Step up your grill game with new seasonings from Coy's Southern Eats. Based off famous Southern recipes, our seasonings will add what's been missing to your family's feast. Add it to steak, chicken, shrimp, you name it. Serving up these fixings is going to make you the hero at home. So head on over to coyssoutherneats.com and order yours today. Come get you some.
And we're back. This last segment here of the Hogville.net YouTube Live Razorback postgame show presented by Coy's Southern Eats. Rediscover the magic of Coy's and come get you some. So, Drake, honestly, this off week could not have came at a better time for this Razorback squad as a whole. You start to look at some of the injuries that guys you might be getting back, like a Nudie McLaughlin that was out today. He's been out for the last couple of weeks. You had some guys that did come back. You had Paul that came back, Cam Ball that came back today. Guys that have been pretty nicked up here the last couple of weeks. They're able to get an extra few days in rehab and get into the trainer's room and start to
I was in that position, I would start looking at our offense. Everybody out there probably knows where they need to work at is definitely the offense, because today, we didn't even put any offensive points on the board. I think that's going to be the real hard look is, and like you're saying, looking at things differently. Because if you want to go to a bowl game, our postseason games.
And that's what was so difficult to swallow today. This is a great opportunity for the Razorbacks to come in, score some points, get your offense on track, and finish strong throughout the rest of November. And now you're depending that is really up and down. You don't exactly know who you're going to get at that time, at that point. I hate to say it like this, but a really good Missouri team that's going to come in and Drink's going to be ready to beat your doors off.
Yeah.
And you got Hugh Freeze now that's coming in. They're not quite as good as most Hugh Freeze. And that's kind of what Arkansas has got to look forward to here. Yeah, but we're going to get offense today. Only 203 yards of offense, 97 yards on the ground. I'm sorry, 200 yards of offense, 97 in the air, 103 on the ground. Running Dominic Johnson late in the fourth quarter is not a recipe for a win. That's a recipe for disaster. On defense, they got a turnover. Landon Jackson almost got a interception just out of the fingertips. KJ lost a fumble. Offense regained a fumble. And so that's honestly, quite frankly, they are exactly what their record is, which is 2-6 on a 6-game losing streak. And Sandra McCann, this offense and this coaching staff are going to be going back to the drawing board, and I think they're going to be asked to have 2 weeks off where if there's a change that needs to be made, you have a couple of weeks to kind of re-game plan and get something in the works for Florida, which I don't know if Sam's going to do. I can't say that he is or isn't, but we'll just have to see. So for myself, Jason Pattyson, and Drake Pretty, I want to thank you guys for jumping on with us today as Razorbacks lose on homecoming 7-3 in front of, it was a crowd that was announced of 71,505. I thought there was probably around maybe 60, 65 total. So, Drake, do you have any closing thoughts?
I hope they get some things fixed this upcoming week. That's how I'm going to leave it. Because if they don't, I don't know, man. I hate to see them lose out the rest of the season. Well, I guess you can probably beat that by you, hopefully.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at, folks. So, again, thank you guys for jumping on with us today, and y'all take care. Tomorrow, be sure to check out the Razorback Football Report with Otis Kirk at 3 o'clock, and then the Razorback Diamond Report with Dudley Dawson at 4:30. And for myself, Jason Pattyson and Drake Pretty, thank you guys for jumping on, and have a good day.